I will do anything that I can to avoid vomiting.
Wait, nobody listens to me. Okay, it's fine.
It has no meat in it.
I do frolic in the forest. Yes.
Hi there. Welcome to the Reading Queens podcast and our unscripted, unfiltered, and ranty episode. I'm not sure how ranty this one will get. I know I keep saying that in the beginning of every episode, but it's just, I mean, this topic is fun, but I also think that we can get ranty about anything. So at this point, we're just keeping that as our little tagline, and it's great. I'm Valia. Hi, welcome.
I'm Hanna.
I'm Alison.
I'm Rose.
Yes, and I'm excited for the ladies to be here. This is the first time this group is together on the podcast, like all four of us, so it's going to be fun.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Second of all, today we're talking about food.
Hooray!
And books.
Yum, yum, yum.
I feel like if you've listened to any of our episodes, especially episodes Hanna has been on, you're like waiting for an episode that involved food because we talk about it all the time.
I do my best. It's just,
I know,
when you ask
and
me
I
what
love it.
exciting things have happened, it's usually about food. I do other things. I don't just
You
Okay,
frolic.
but-
You
okay.
frolic.
I do frolic in the forest. Yes.
That's true.
Sometimes I bring
But
cookies.
this episode, you are allowed to talk about your food
Yeah, this is
adventures.
it.
Food
Not that I'm like,
adventures.
okay, that made it sound like I veto anything you say, but I don't.
Yeah, usually I'm not allowed to talk about food adventures.
But she talks about them
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm rebellious.
Nobody listens to me. Okay, it's fine. No. But yeah, with Thanksgiving coming up, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Allison's gonna talk about non-Thanksgiving stuff because she does not have Thanksgiving.
Token
I'll
bread.
talk about Thanksgiving in the past because I'm Canadian and we already had our Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's catch up first. Like, how's everybody? What have you cooked this week? Since this is perfect time to talk about this.
Well, I have been baking.
Wow.
Hannah's like, let me take it away.
I'm excited to talk
here.
about it. Okay, so you know how at the beginning of COVID, everyone was making their own sourdough starters?
Yes.
Did you notice this on
Yes.
social
Oh,
media?
I tried it.
Yes.
I didn't do that, but
failed.
yes, I saw.
Allison, you tried and you failed?
Well, yeah, I did. Like, I persevered for quite a few months, and I think my starter didn't work, and I think it wasn't quite warm enough in our house for it, so it never kind of got. So we had a lot of sourdough pancakes while I was like
That is the best thing to do with sourdough, I
taking
think.
all the
That
starter
works.
out and placing it, and we had some very flat loaves. But I tell
Oh,
you
no.
what, the best. Sorry, I'm gonna like steal your
Okay,
moment
okay.
here. But anyway, the best kind of sourdough in inverted commas bread that I've made is actually a gluten-free like sourdough type loaf, and it's a recipe I got online, and it's absolutely brilliant. I gave up gluten for a while just after I had my son because we weren't sure if he had like an intolerance or something. And anyway, I made this bread, and it's delicious, and it tastes like really kind of like a bit like rye flour, and it sort of has a bit of a taste of sourdough, but it doesn't have a starter or anything. It's really easy.
Is it like an overnight dough?
Is it a what?
Is it like an overnight one?
No. You just kind of make it and leave it to rise for a bit, and then whack it in one of those bowl
Magic.
things that I
Magic
can't
fake
remember the name.
sourdough.
That sounds super easy,
Perfect.
and I need easy because I'm not very good at this whole baking thing. I'm like actually terrible at it. So easy is for me.
We should have some video calls, Rose. We can get this worked out.
I need help.
So are you doing sourdough?
Hannah's
Hannah?
got ya.
Have you got
Yeah,
like, a little
so
starter?
the thing is I did start a sourdough starter back then, because everyone was talking about sourdough, and then I listened to this podcast, and it was about this guy who had like taken scrapings from an Egyptian pottery and restarted like an Egyptian sourdough that was
I read
thousands of years
about
old.
that. I think I read about
I
that.
don't know what
yeah.
to think about that. What? He did what?
He managed to like develop a culture from the scrapings from pottery, and then he had to like feed it with the kind of grain that was in the like that they used back then, because sourdough only eats like the kind of grain it's made to eat, and blah blah blah. It's on Ologies if anyone is really nerdy and excited about this. And while I was listening to it, because before that I was like blah blah blah, like my mom's always done sourdough and it seemed like a lot of work, and I've killed sourdough starters like multiple times. Like she'd give me one and I'd kill it. But I was listening to this guy, and I think he's just so excited about sourdough, and I was just, like, mixing sourdough while talking to him. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I was, like, Googling on my phone. I'm, like, getting a starter. And it did take me a while, but that starter is still alive.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Does it have a name?
It does not have a name. My kids named it, but I forget what they named it, and then they forgot what they named it. We do talk about feeding it like it's a little pet, but it doesn't have a name. And it sits on my counter because then I don't forget it. And I do make pancakes or waffles once or twice a week.
That is amazing.
And I make sourdough pizza dough often. And then I'm like, I really should be making bread with this thing. Like, I'm just lazy, and you can make pancakes so easily. You just, like, throw in an egg and some oil, and it's like a pancake. But I made, like, this beautiful sourdough bread this week, and I made sourdough English muffins, and they were all wonderful, and my family was impressed, and I was impressed. And it was really easy. It's like, well, the English muffins are trickier, but the bread was one of those where you just, like, mix it up and then just leave it for a day and a half.
Was
your put it in the oven pretty much.
Dough really wet? Because that was a problem I had. Like,
very wet.
It's supposed to be wet, but then I think
it's very
was, like,
wet.
Too wet.
Like, how long does it
possible?
last?
Because how long does sourdough last?
Yeah, like, how long does a starter last?
Forever.
Well, I mean,
Forever.
Since Egyptian
years,
times.
apparently. You have to feed it. You have to feed it. Because the little, like, microorganisms eat the flour. Like, the nutrients in the flour. So I feed it, like, every night or every other night. It's part of my bedtime routine. I, like, feed my little sourdough.
Wow.
Get, like, a half cup of water and a couple scoops of flour and mix it in. And then when it gets too big and puffy in its container, I make pancakes.
For somebody who's never done sourdough before, like, people listening, they're going to be like, this is the strangest witch thing in the world.
Yes, it is. And I'm not good with all this stuff. Like, I have tried, well, I mean, I have kept kombucha alive for a while, but it just, like, seems like too much effort. I think I'm more invested in eating pancakes than drinking kombucha. That's what it comes down to.
Fair.
I think that's awesome.
Or waffles. So, yeah, I made really pretty bread.
Yay!
Long story short.
It was pretty.
my
I
bread
saw
was
a
pretty.
picture of it.
Yes, I was like, look at my bread, look at my bread. It's like telling people, I was like making my husband admire it. I'm like, please admire my bread. It's very lovely. It's not flat. So I was excited. That's my story.
I'm excited.
My long story about sourdough, and I've almost killed it a couple times, but I've revived it.
I think you should send a little bit of
Voodoo
it in the
witchcraft.
post to Rose.
Yes!
And then she can try it.
You can apparently do that if you dry it out all the way, and you can like make a powder or like flakes, and then you can just send it to someone and they can rehydrate it.
Oh, yeah, so you kill it and then...
And then you
Put it in a
do
dormant
the
state. You just have to add water and then mix it up. I've never tried this. I just saw it on the internet because there's a lot of people obsessed with sourdough on the internet. Far more so than me. Well, my whole desk just shook because my cat just jumped up.
So this
Yeah.
reminds
You can see his
Wait a
tail
minute.
go past
Are
the
you getting
screen.
it? Oh, I thought you were getting
No,
it.
Hannah just disappeared for a second because her cat walked in front of the camera.
I thought you were going to get it and show it to us.
Oh, my sourdough?
This is show and tell on the podcast.
It looks like wet, bubbly
Yeah.
flour. It's in a glass container. It doesn't have a name. Dear podcast listeners, if you think I should name my sourdough, feel free to give suggestions on our Instagram post.
There you go. Perfect. We actually made bread today. So this morning I got back from the gym and I was like, oh, I just want avocado toast. And we had no bread in the house.
So you do what you
Mom was
gotta
like-
do.
I know. Mom was like, you know, we have a bread maker, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, we do. So we made this, or she made it actually, because I was busy on the Zoom call. So while I was on the Zoom, she was making it. And so she put it in. It's a wheat flour that my dad just bought. And we've never tried it before. And so it was like done right before we got on the podcast. And so I had a little
That was
piece
fast.
and it was so good. It's like an hour bread maker machine.
Wow.
So
It is
depending, I mean, yeah, it is fast. I mean, depending on like what kind, like there's like 4-hour option depending on what kind of mixture and stuff like that. But considering that I grew up on my grandma, like making bread in one of those brick ovens that are the size of the house and like sticking it in with like a huge
must have been
shovel and
delicious,
taking
though.
it out.
Yeah.
It's the best. But I'm like, this is magic.
It
It
is
happens in
magic.
an hour.
I bet your house smells so good right now, does it? Like bread.
It does, yeah. I know, that's my favorite.
I'm jealous.
too.
We
I'm
ate
like-
all our bread. age.
Yeah, I told my mom, I was like, why have we been buying bread? Like, can I just make bread like every Monday and just add that to my meal prep? And she's like, oh yeah, we should just do that.
It's so nice having homemade bread. So good.
I definitely don't do it all the time. Like, I buy sandwich bread. I've got 3 children and a husband who takes sandwiches, so I'm not like that on top of things. But I don't want to give people the wrong impression. Because sometimes you're like, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I don't do it all. Yeah, no, I just make bread for fun, not for staple menu items. Anyone else bake anything
fun,
now that I've taken over? I mean, Valia's mom made bread.
I know. So,
Rose?
Anybody else made anything this week that they want to talk about?
I have never made bread in my entire life.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Okay, but have you made other things though? Like, you're Mexican, so you guys like hand make everything.
So, I am not all that great with making stuff. Okay, let me just say.
Okay.
Let me just say this. I have tried. Like, my mom will come over and she'll make her like delicious, her caldo de res or her carne guisada or tortillas or whatever, and I try and I watch and I take notes and I can't do it. I mean, I can, but it's just not that great. I don't know what I'm doing.
Do you have a dish that you're like is your thing though? Like, do you have something that you're like, I can't cook much, but I can do this one thing?
You must have something, right?
She laughs. No.
Well, I guess
Put you on the
She's
spot
like
now.
McDonald's.
I guess my thing. I mean, I can make pretty good Spanish rice, which is hard. I mean, if you know how to make Spanish rice, you know it's really, really hard. So I'm pretty good at that. And I really love making my caldo. So I'm pretty good at that. That's kind of it.
What is that? What is caldo?
It's soup. It's just chunky vegetable soup with delicious broth and yummy beef, or you can do chicken, but I like beef. So that's kind of like my go-to. But I'm
starting to wish I had eaten more lunch.
Yeah, right.
I haven't even had lunch yet. I'm like, this is not going to be a good podcast.
If we hear a weird noise, it's Valia's tummy.
Yeah, let's just ignore that. I'll try to cut that out. No. That's funny. What about you, Alison? Did you make anything this week?
Well, so I actually, on the subject of bread, I made focaccia a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
And, well, no, so I'm going to admit, it was out of like a bread packet. It was just one that we had in the cupboard. So I didn't make it from fresh. But my husband had used the same packet, except he's not very good at following directions. So he'd made this focaccia, but it just like didn't rise. So it came out like really hard, and it was tasty, but it wasn't like ideal. So I was like,
it's like a big cracker.
So I'm like, I'm going to make this focaccia because his parents were coming over. So my husband's half Italian and he's from Genoa, and focaccia is a big thing for him, as in he is very, very particular about his focaccia. And his mum is quite particular about focaccia. So I was like, oh, well, how wrong can it go? Anyway, so I made it, and I like, the difference between me and my husband is I follow recipes to the letter and he ignores them. And I followed this recipe to the letter, and it came out perfectly, and it was so tasty. So I was really proud of it. Yeah. And then the other thing I made this weekend was my favourite cheesecake, which is a honey and thyme yogurt cheesecake.
Ooh.
And it's so tasty. It's like my favourite thing ever.
You'll have to give us the recipe after.
I know.
I feel like we're gonna have to put loads of recipe links
recipe book
in this like Instagram post or something. Yeah, that was good.
Sounds good.
That does sound good. Yeah, I'm so hungry now. Anyway,
moving on to books.
Let's talk about books and food. And yeah, this is like a fun conversation to have because I think most of us, well, okay, besides Alison, who writes dystopian, we all have food in our books.
I am putting food in my Fae books now because I missed writing about food so much in my dystopian series. It's just like, there's just not much you can really write about. Like, I just gave them like really boring, like rations, you know, like fake food. So actually one of the characters works in a food factory, so there is like a whole plot line around food, but it's like vats of like fake meat and all this stuff anyway. So it's just not
sounds like a true dystopian nightmare.
It is,
what
yeah,
you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not nice food. So I'm like gonna go the opposite way in my face series, and it's all gonna be like cinnamon buns and honeyed this and that and all the yummy things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna just ask a couple of questions, but you guys can just like go with this wherever you want to go with this. But it is really fun. I think we talked about this before on a podcast, maybe, but like it's really fun to have food in books, especially if there's just like something extra, like, oh, I can make this after I'm done. Like, you know, I think I remember Kay like made one of the cakes or something like that, or cookies that she had in her book, and then she was like, that was like part of her like release thing and whatever. I'm like, that is like a fun thing to do. But anyway. Yeah,
it was scones,
like,
I think.
I don't remember
scones,
that.
there you go.
Yeah.
I thought she
It was in her newsletter.
because she doesn't bake, does she? Like normally
No.
she
Yeah.
does not bake at all.
I can
It
relate
was like
to
a
that.
big deal.
I was very proud of her.
Yes, it was great. But I thought that was like such a fun thing, and I like how relatable food is in books and stuff. Like everybody can, you know, relate to eating. So okay. But anyway, so the first question is, what was the last book you read with a food or a recipe or anything like that in it?
Okay, so it wasn't the last book that I read, but the book that I read that had food in it and it really jumped out at me was The Hunger Games. Because I remember reading that book, and Katniss is going to the Capitol, and, you know, she's starving because she's been in her district and she's food deprived. And then she's on the train, and they had all the food on the train. Do you guys remember that scene?
Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
Gosh.
And it was all like really rich food, wasn't it? And she
Yes.
was like nearly sick.
Yes, and it was long. It was a very long scene of all the stuff that she was just gobbling down. And I remember thinking, she needs to not eat so much. Her
Right, yeah.
stomach is not used to that. And it was like the very first book that I had ever read that had a huge eating scene in it. So that was kind of
And that
cool.
makes sense in that book because it's like such a contrast of like
Yes.
of having things, of the luxury of having good food.
Yeah, and it was such a long, long scene. And it was in the movie, but it was very short. But she was like chowing down. And I was like, wow, girl.
And then they had and then later on when she's in the Capitol, there's that scene where she fires the arrow into the pig or an apple in the pig's mouth or something. So again,
Yeah.
like this really like opulent banquet with this complete contrast, not just from like the district she's come from, but also from what they get in the arena. And
Yes.
you know, they're like surviving on a handful of berries or something.
Yeah.
I just always remember from that book the way the rich people like go to parties and eat, and then they make themselves vomit so they can eat more
More,
when other
yes.
people are starving. And I was like, I mean, I do love to eat, but the idea of like puking on purpose to get more room in my stomach to continue my party doesn't sound very party-rific to me.
Yeah, I will do anything that I
very
can
gross.
to avoid vomiting because guess
Yes,
what? It's
I know.
gross.
It's really gross.
Yes. Yeah, but I think like that's a perfect example of using food as that like a storytelling
Yes.
tool. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, here's some food that you're eating. Like, no, like this is important to the story because it shows like the contrast between, you know, these worlds that, you know, she lives in, whatever. And I think that's like a really fun thing. Like cozies do that too, right? Like they usually set their stories in like a bakery, you know, like there's like a baker and there's a small town or whatever, and like they really use that to like make you feel cozy and like all that stuff. So it's like a really cool
Yes.
thing, like to use food to show, like make it part of the story.
I was thinking that happens. I was looking at all my books before this recording, being like, which ones have good food?
All of
and
them.
I feel like a lot
All
of
yours.
no, not of my
Oh.
books, of the books I own. I found that my contemporary romances have a lot more, and I think again it's that just like cozy, happy feeling. I was thinking of the To All the Boys I Loved Before series. Lara Jean in it is always trying a new recipe and like trying to perfect her cookies and trying to get like the best chocolate chip cookies. And I loved that, just kind of the thread of it through there. And then there's like her Korean food from her mom's side of the family that her dad still makes, even though he's not like the Korean parent. He's trying really hard. And just how much like food has to do with like love and family.
Yes.
In that series, I really liked. And then I just read a book. This is funny because it's not food exactly, but in Dreams Lie Beneath by Becca Ross, they're always drinking tea with cream and honey. And I take my tea with cream and honey, and every time I was like, I want some tea.
Do you drink tea? You drink the tea with cream? Is that not like... I've never tried that. So I have...
I know,
sometimes
Brits don't do this.
coffee with cream. I know. No, I have like... I mean, I have like full-fat milk in my tea. Mm-hmm. So, but it's not cream. And I have actually tried cream in my tea, and it tastes like weird, but I guess it's just what you're used to.
It's partly you have to have a really strong black tea. Like, you can't do it with insipid tea.
I have Yorkshire tea. Okay,
oh,
this is
I believe you. I'm just telling for the audience. This is for the audience.
Oh yeah. So you can't have weak insipid.
I'm like, don't
American
try this
tea.
with like no. It's got to be like proper tea. But part of the thing for me is that I am lactose intolerant and I cannot drink milk. But heavy cream doesn't have lactose in it because the lactose is the sugar and the carbs. You know, like low carb meals, they always still have cream. That's a thing.
I never knew that.
So if you have heavy like the 33% whipping cream or whatever, I just put less in than I would with milk. But then I don't get a sore stomach from it.
Hey,
you know what?
And then you
Next
get to love it, and then it's like a dessert in your cup.
Next time I have some cream in, I'm gonna try that tea with cream and honey.
It is yummy, but yeah, like I said, it has to be a strong one, or else the cream and the honey are gonna completely overpower the. You can't do it with like green tea or something.
That kind of segues nicely into my book. I'm talking a lot about honey today. I think I'm on like a honey thing.
Pretty awesome.
We have some jars of like local honey that was like produced just a few miles away at the moment, and it's really delicious. But anyway, so the last book I read, which like the food kind of jumped out at me, and it's actually a reread because I have read it before, but it's an Enchantment of Thorns by Helena Rookwood and Elm Vince, and it's a fae book, and I love how they get food into their fae books. They have like fae banquets and they describe all the dishes, and they're all like really kind of not oldie worldy, but using like really kind of natural things. So it's all like honey and cream and berries and like meat soaked in different juices and marinades and all this kind of delicious stuff which you can just imagine. And so Helena is a friend of mine, and she is a forager, so she goes out and she forages, and she forages lots of like medicinal plants as well as kind of edibles and things which you cook with.
Wow.
So she puts a lot of that into her books as well, which I really love.
That is so cool.
I love kind of foraging and collecting things. So if there's any kind of...
Do you forage for food?
So I do very basic. So I do like blackberries and rowan berries. So this year I got some rowan berries to make rowan berry jelly as like a Christmas gift. So I made that the other weekend, and that's a bit of an experiment because it can be quite bitter. So I haven't tried it before. And we also do like liqueurs with them as well. So like blackberry liqueur, we've done a rowan berry liqueur. And yeah, not a huge amount else, but I was talking to Helena and I was saying I need something for this season because I keep getting colds at the moment. My son's at nursery and he just keeps giving me colds. So I was like, what do I do for colds? And she's like, well, nature provides. So at the moment it's all about like rose hips and elderberries. So like elderberries.
I was wondering if you had elderberries.
We do, but
we get
you know what?
elderberries
I
for a
have
while
this thing
here.
where I'm scared. I'm like 95% sure, no, 99% sure that I recognise them. But I'm really terrified that I'll pick the wrong thing and it's going to be this poisonous blackberry. And,
okay, that's
like,
something that is a legitimate concern. Going out to forage and picking something and eating it, and then you're like, got some kind of toxin?
Yeah.
I get like huckleberries, which are like a blueberry.
Yeah.
We do huckleberries, and I have done elderberries, but they're a lot of work because they have like tiny twigs, and the twigs are toxic, but the berries are good. So you have to like take every tiny twig.
How do you even know? How do you even?
This is so much work.
Because it's local, so local people know. Is how I know. Like, there's tons of elderberries here, and then huckleberries. Everyone here knows about huckleberries and how to. Pick
Okay, so it's just a thing that you know. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like picking blueberries. But I always think I want to do mushrooms, and there was so many mushrooms this year, and I did pick mushrooms out of my uncle's yard because I know what kind of mushrooms they are, and they were in his yard. So I don't really feel like you can call that foraging. It's like his lawn.
But if you pick it out of the ground, it is foraging.
You can plant them on purpose.
Exactly.
So it's not gardening.
That is so interesting to me.
Really funny,
I have foraged nettles and dandelion leaves before. So I did, this is going on a bit of tangent, but I'll be really quick. So I did, like years ago, I used to do this Live Below the Line challenge, which was to raise awareness of extreme poverty. So you had to like live on £1 worth of food, so like equivalent of $1 worth of food a day for like 5 days. And basically you can't buy much food for like £1 or $1. So I supplemented it with foraging. So I made like sagaloo from like tinned potatoes and nettles, and I kind of did dandelion tea and stuff.
That is the coolest thing ever. I feel like
that'd be quite a challenge.
Like Valia and I are over here, like the city girls, and we're like, what?
No, okay, speak for yourself. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have a foraging story. So I'm in the burbs in the big city. So my burbs are really not the burbs. I'm in a big city, but I do have a lake and ducks. And there is this lady down the street. She doesn't live there anymore, but a grandmother, Chinese, cute, tiny little thing. She would go sneak over to the lake and search for duck eggs. And cook them and eat them. And then when I found out, I was like, what? Because my son would go over there all the time and eat over there because she made the best food ever. And they would eat the duck eggs. And I just didn't know what I thought about that. It's like,
I guess I'd have to know what the duck population was like.
Yeah.
I don't want to like aid in making these poor city ducks who already have a rough life.
Yeah, it was just so. Anyway, that's my foraging tale. So. Like,
I have never foraged for eggs.
Yeah, that's
a little
right?
different.
That's totally different. And I was like, oh
that is
my
different.
Gosh,
that's really funny.
Yeah,
it's easier than hunting for food, I guess.
I grew up, like, I spent my summers in the village in Ukraine, so like we did that all the time, and we would go out into the forest and like come back with pounds and pounds of mushrooms, and stuff like that, and buckets of blueberries and stuff like that. So it's like we would do that all the time. And it's really funny because as an adult, I'm like, oh, I just want to do that. And as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, we're still in the forest looking for mushrooms. Like,
oh, I know. I go out with my children and they're like, can we be done? And I was like, I still see more huckleberries.
Hold the basket.
Huckleberries for the winter.
Is there anything you can forage in Arizona?
Sand.
Rocks. Tasty. Cacti? Can you eat bits of cacti?
Oh, yeah.
Certain ones, yes. They actually sell them in the stores too, like paddles of them to eat or whatever.
Like prickly pears.
Oh, yeah, prickly pears.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those spiky.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of any of that. So I'm good. I'll just eat normal food while I'm in the city. It's fine.
That is funny. So when I was growing up, we had this big giant cactus in my front yard. It was humongous. And we would go in the front yard and get those leaves and, pick them and then cook them. And it was delicious. That's foraging.
Yeah.
There you go.
If it's not,
she's like, I found one.
Yeah.
I think it counts.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to skip over like all of the questions that I had. And I'm going to go straight to the one where we talk about the food we write into our books, because I think that's a better segue. And then we can talk about Thanksgiving after that and whatever else. But yeah, talk about the food in your books.
I can talk about the food in Hannah's books because I still remember that croque-en-bouche.
Hooray!
Hannah's like,
It actually
success.
made me
Yes.
want to go and make a croquembouche.
I don't even know what that is.
It's little cream puffs.
Oh.
So you know, like the pastry with the cream in them, and you make them into this giant pyramid tower, and then it has. I have not done this.
Have you not?
And then
Because I
there's,
have, and
no.
it failed.
I have.
You need to
I have
do it,
wanted
Hannah.
to.
Hannah.
You
But you get like
should.
strands of like you get caramel, like runny caramel, and like wrap. I don't know.
It's
You
like
throw
spun
it at
sugar.
it, and yeah, and then it holds it together
Oh,
with these
wow.
like threads of caramel. If you have watched,
Yes to all of
I'm
that.
trying to think. We watched a bunch of it on. Okay, our family's been watching Great British Bake Off, and we're like season 4 or something as a family.
course.
And we've also watched all the seasons so far of the Great Canadian Bake Off. And I feel like the Canadian one has had multiple croquembouche challenges. It's just really funny. And I think one of the British ones did too. So if you just like enjoy watching people make food. But that was for my Frog Prince retelling. And in the Frog Prince, at the beginning, the princess loses her golden ball in the pond. So for me, I had little golden pastries, and they fall in the pond, and the frog eats them
Oh.
instead of retrieving them. So it was like my nod to the original fairy tale.
I love
with
that.
The ball. And she falls into the pond, and everyone's in the pond.
I actually remember that now.
Ruins her croquembouche.
Cool.
Because she's my baking character. Well, one of my baking characters. Like a lot. So that was just a little novella. It's like free for my newsletter subscribers. It's like 8 chapters or something. And she bakes with her papa, and they have a good time. But then what else I got? In the Rose Gate, my full-length novel, the sister bakes a lot, and she bakes recipes, Lily, that I actually make. Like, I just gave her my recipes. So I didn't put it in my book. In the special edition hardcover, I put one of the recipes in.
Oh,
But
nice.
it's not actually legal for me to include them because I didn't invent the recipes. They were like just ones I use. So I put them in my newsletter.
Don't tell anybody, guys.
Can you?
This
You
is a
know what?
secret
You know what
podcast.
you need to do, Hannah? Is you
Recipe
just need to
copyright
like
people.
take that recipe and tweak it slightly.
Well, okay, I
and
have
then,
changed
and then
it
it can
enough.
be yours.
And it's technically that one. I have made 3 changes, and 3 changes means it's a new recipe, but I would still not exactly call it. But I mean, it's chocolate chip cookies, but they're the best ones.
Ever.
So you can find that also through my newsletter. And then in Culinaire, in the like fairy realm, they pick apples and bake pie, and there's just a lot of food. I just like food a lot, and I like characters who enjoy eating. And then in my other novella, my Little Red Riding Hood retelling, my wolf boy just loves cheesecake because I like boys with sweet tooths. Probably because I like to feed people.
Nice.
So for me, I'm like, what's the good of a guy who doesn't want to eat my baking? And my new one that I'm writing right now, she's a seamstress, not a baker. So there's like less, but there's still some good food. And there's a little dragon with a sweet tooth who keeps stealing pastries. So there's no like, she doesn't do any cooking in it, but there's still a lot of food
Nice.
around. I know. And if I always think I want to write rom-com sometime, and I'm like, it would totally be like a baker.
Yeah,
I can
see it,
totally see it.
100%.
Yes, I think you should do it.
It's so fun for
Add
me.
it to your list.
Yes, in my spare time.
Yeah, add it.
I feel like my current readers would murder me if I started writing another series I take so long to write as it is. It would have to be a pen name just for my own safety.
Yeah, there you go. Protect yourself at all costs. Okay, so Rose, you have Mexican food in your books.
Okay, oh man. So, first of all, I really love Mexican food, obviously, but I would rather eat like a bowl of chips and salsa and tamales than a cheesecake any day, because I love sweets, but I don't really have a huge sweet tooth. I have I guess a salty tooth. I don't know. So savory, salty. And so I wanted to, in my books, show a lot of my characters and their culture. And so I bring that in with food. And in Faye Hunted, that I'm writing right now, I actually have the scene that I have just finished where the grandmother is over there, Abuela, and she is making migas. I love migas. Has everyone
What are
had
migas? What
Okay.
are they?
So it is a breakfast dish, and it's like scrambled eggs with tortilla chips, with fried tortilla chips, corn tortillas. And you just make it in one big pot. Of course, you add, like, if you want to add some jalapeno or some onion or whatever. And you have a tortilla, and you put it in, and you eat it like that. Migas.
So it's tortilla chips in it, and you put it in a tortilla.
Yes, but it's not like chips, like crispy.
Okay.
So it's hard. Okay, so if you get a tortilla, and then you rip it into shreds, and put it in your pan with your eggs and your, oil, and then you just fry it up like that. So the tortillas aren't like crispy hard like chips and salsa, but they're like medium. Does that make sense? I don't even know.
Yeah. It sounds yummy.
So good. So I have the miga scene, but then I bring in like food in all of my books and all of my Hispanic characters. There's always a meal. And in Faye Fractured, I have a caldo scene where Abuela's making some caldo and tortillas. And then I have, in the Finalized series, I have a scene where they get together Christmas Eve and they're eating tamales. Because this is the tamale season. This is it.
Yeah, that's true.
This is it. So you know how, like in the fall, moving into the holidays, it's all about pumpkin spice? Well, for me, it's tamales. Tamales. I have been eating tamales.
Tamale lattes don't seem like a thing. You have to work on this.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. You need the full...
We're not a direct replacement.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, so tamales is the thing right now. So I have a tamale eating scene, and it's so yummy. And of course, I have tamales right now in my freezer and in my fridge because I've been eating tamales since Halloween. Yes.
So I've never had one, and I remember I think we were talking about this in our group or something anyway, and I've been wanting to make them ever since we had that conversation, and you told me what they were, and I think actually I do have a recipe in one of my books for it, so I need to get around to it soon. But they seem there's quite a lot of steps to do it.
Yes.
Like it's not a quick thing.
No.
So yeah, I need to save it for a day when I have time.
I've had the Chilean version, but I think they're different.
Oh.
I think it's a different name too, but it was like a similar like construction method and things like that when I was in Chile.
Yeah, so tamales, that's the thing. And so I bring all those foods that I love into the books. But then I also, in my Faye books, I can't forget all the delicious Faye food. I do have a lot of Faye food, whatever that is. But like the bread with the spices and the sauces and the different like teas. I don't drink tea, y'all. Is that crazy? I do not drink tea. So I was writing all these scenes with all this tea drinking, and I was like, had to do a lot of research. I probably should have just like sent a message to the group, help me with this tea scene.
Oh, we would have been there for you.
I know, I should have.
And to Sonia, too.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Hannah and Tess would be like, yes,
like,
here's
let
a
us
list.
teach you about all the tea.
Yeah. So I do have some of my Faye food and teas, but I mostly have the Mexican food, which is my thing.
That makes sense.
And I love it.
Because it's what you love. And the Faye stuff you're just like making up.
Yeah.
Although I do have one of my characters is a coffee obsessed person just because I thought it would be funny because I don't drink coffee. But I find that coffee people are very into their coffee. So I just wrote someone who loved their coffee a lot. And it amused me. I'm like, it was my second book. And I'm like, I can't have my characters all be so much like me. So I'll make her like coffee. And then it's totally different.
There you go.
All of my characters are coffee obsessed people.
So you gotta mix it up a little. Throw some tea in there. We need diversity in our drinks.
Valia, do you have Russian food in your books?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, yes and no. I don't know. So I feel like, when I wrote The Scarlet Rose, I have a dinner in there, and I also have a character who loves to cook, and she, she's a princess, but that's, like, her favorite pastime is to just cook for the people and stuff. And so she does make like meat and potatoes, and I'm pretty sure she does make bistroganov, but I I can't think of like if I described it enough for people to like realize that's what it was. And it's like Russian mushroom and beef mixture with like this sauce that you make, and you usually put it on top of mashed potatoes. You can also put it on top of baked potatoes, but I just love mashed potatoes. But I feel like potatoes are literally in every single one of my books, and I think that's a Russian thing.
You know what? Because
I remember from it.
Whenever I think of Russian food, I think of cabbages and potatoes. And like cabbage soup, and we always have a glut of cabbages and potatoes over winter because we get like this local like organic veg bag, and because this is the UK, the only like vegetables we get which we grow over the winter are like cabbages and root vegetables. Yeah. So if you know any good cabbage recipes,
there's a lot of cabbage in caldo.
I mean, there are a lot
of cabbage that goes into the caldo.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? I think I looked up some recipes the other day for cabbage, and that was one of them, but it said it was like a Portuguese dish, so I don't know, maybe there's some crossover there, like a soup
crossover. Caldo de res. That's what I make. Good.
I feel like every like we have a like borscht is like a lot of cabbage and stuff, so, and potatoes and meat.
Yum.
Like that's like the staple that we make and stuff. I feel like it's at least in one of my books. I can't remember which one it is.
I just remember a lot of potatoes in the Scarlet Rose.
Yeah.
I was like, I need some potatoes. We're very
I'm telling you, this is why I'm obsessed with potatoes. No, but it is a thing. It's like a dish in everything. Like even our salads, most of our salads have potatoes in it.
Really?
Like, it's just a thing, and I love it. It's so good. But no, I have like a whole list of foods that I want to bring into the Cinderella retelling, which is the next one in the Scarlet or in the fairy tale series, because like the kingdom that the story is set in and the people that it involves, I'm like, yes, these are the people that are gonna like have family dinners and like really step into the culture. It's good. I mean, I'm really excited to write it, but it's definitely gonna have more than potatoes, but it's still gonna have a lot of potatoes because
that's the thing.
It is the staple.
So I should just have a snack ready when I go to read it.
I think you should
have some potatoes.
I think you should have a 7-course banquet in there, and every dish is a potato dish.
That's funny. It's actually, there's going to be multiple banquets in that book because they're having a celebration, and it's one of those all-timey celebrations where it's not one day, but like a week-long, 8-day celebration. And there's multiple balls, and there's multiple food dinners, and like all this stuff.
It's going to be a lot of potatoes.
It's a whole thing. Yeah, it's going to be a whole thing. Yeah, I'm excited. With my cozies, I always, I've been doing a lot of pastries because my side character, the best friend, is a baker, and she owns her own bakery. And so I always try to include at least one baking, like something yummy that everybody wants to eat. And then I like try to include like a recipe at the end of the book just so people can try it. Because most of them are super, super easy, but like tasty at the same time. So, no potatoes though for the cozies so far. Just
I mean, you can bake with
you need to figure that out. You need to add that in.
But you know, like
I know people are gonna be like, give me something else besides potatoes, woman. Like
you can have like those like mini baked potatoes with like lashings of butter. Like that sounds quite cozy.
Yeah,
I'm getting hungry.
Or the twice baked. Yum.
I was gonna say you can make potato bread though, and you can make
potato cake. I reckon you can make a potato cake.
I'm sure you can. I saw a thing as somebody who made like Depression era things on TikTok, and there's like some potato cake instead of flour because they had more potatoes than flour.
Yeah.
For a while.
I figured out how to make like the perfect air fried fries from just like regular potatoes, and it's literally the only thing I want to eat. And I also add this white cheddar popcorn topping that you put like over popcorn. You add that to the air fried fries that you make, and it's like it. Oh my gosh, it is so good. I'm like so hungry now. But anyway, next question. No, let's segue into. I mean, obviously you write, food into your books, but do you ever make recipes from other books? Like, do you ever just read something, even if they don't have a recipe? Do you ever read something and I'm like, ugh, I want to make that because it sounds really good, and then you like find a recipe and make it?
No.
No. Rose is like, no.
I want to say yes.
Not my
but
skill.
I'm not sure. I think it makes me hungry for certain things, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I remember, like, when I was a kid, I used to read all the Enid Blyton books, and they were all basically about these young kids going on picnics and having hard-boiled eggs with salt, and then they'd come home for, like, high tea and have, like, scones and jam and cream and all this yumminess. And, yeah, it just made me want to go and make scones with jam and cream.
Hey, did you do it? Did you do it?
I don't think I really made scones as a kid. I made them recently though.
Yeah.
I like scones now. They're kind of easy to make. Our scones, ours are different to your scones though, right? So
I think.
Oh no,
I think they're
are they the same?
It's biscuits.
Oh, it's
are,
biscuits that are
different.
different. Okay, yeah. I have to watch. Okay.
I know. I actually was like Googling this the other day after my kids are like, "Why do British people call cookies biscuits?" And I'm like, I do not know.
Good question.
We
So I went
we
down a big old
have
rabbit
biscuits and then we have cookies, and cookies are a subsect of biscuits.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
And cookies, I learned, is like from Dutch, is how we came up with like the cookie term, and it's just that was who was making cookies in New York before the British were making cookies, because the Dutch people were making cookies and called them cookies.
That's fascinating.
So that's why there wasn't like British
Interesting.
people making biscuits and then they changed the name. It was just a completely different culture.
Yeah.
Because everyone has cookies.
So if we made like chocolate chip biscuits, we'd call them cookies. So we call them choc chip cookies. But like we'd have ginger biscuits or lemon biscuits or like shortbread, which is a different thing. And yeah, oat biscuits and all the biscuits.
Yes. Yes.
But then my kids are always like, but then what do British people call biscuits? Because we also have biscuits.
So like, because
You just
don't
don't have biscuits.
So biscuits, as in they're like a bit like scones though, right?
They're yes, but they're not.
But they're not sweet.
And
It's
they're
wrong.
made like
It's just
individually.
wrong.
It's wrong because you haven't had them. They're so.
true.
You put some
Yeah.
butter on.
It's very
and all
nuanced.
melty, and you have it with your soup, and it is like the best thing ever. They're so good. I'm not saying scones aren't good, because they are, but I actually would rather have a biscuit.
I would rather have a biscuit as well.
And
They're
did you know
super
this
yummy.
is like a bit of trivia for you about scones, because I'm still on the scone obsession. So
Some scone trivia.
like scones are traditional, like particularly associated with Cornwall and Devon, which are two counties in like the southwest of England. But they have the jam and cream on top in a different order. And I can never remember which way around it is. I think in Devon, you put the cream on first and then the jam. And in the Cornwall, you put the jam on first and then the cream.
What?
Seems like it would be hard to put the jam on top of the cream.
I know. I think that's why I always
That doesn't seem right.
How
go for
thick is
jam
the cream?
first.
How thick is the cream?
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
it's
that's
like
what I'm
it's
wondering.
clotted cream. Yeah. So it's thick.
So is it like cream cheese?
No, it's
like the texture.
they're like, think about the thickest whipping cream you can get and then go thicker.
Okay.
Like it's
Okay.
actually
It's like almost
quite
like spreadable
hard.
Almost like
yeah,
a
it's-
meringue, kind of.
It's almost like
Okay.
a cross between
No,
cream
not
and
fluffy.
butter.
Oh, that's interesting. Because like for like if I ever have bagels or anything like that, I like to put cream cheese on it, and then I like to put jelly or jam on top of it. So like that's how I eat my bagels.
Yum.
So I'm like, that doesn't sound weird to me.
Sounds yummy.
It's too like you would put like it's more like a spoonful on, isn't it? Like it's more like, I don't know. You could do it with that. It's just not like spreadable and it'll stay in place the way cream cheese would.
Okay. I don't know. I
It
just
is
like
delicious.
that sounds good too. I need to go eat, you guys.
I need Alison to try biscuits. If you have some fresh biscuits
Yes.
with butter on top.
Okay, maybe.
will love
Do I
them.
have to have?
They
Do
are
I have
not
to have
like
gravy with
replacements.
them? Do you have to have gravy?
No,
with them?
no. I just have them with soup.
Okay, I tell you what. You send me a recipe and I will try them. I will make them. and I will
Perfect.
try them.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so this is gonna segue into Thanksgiving
Ooh,
since
yeah,
that's
yeah,
coming
yeah.
up.
For some of
Let's
you.
talk about for some of us. Do you guys make something that's like specific for Thanksgiving?
Yes.
like- Or Alison, for you, it's a seasonal dish. Like, is there something
Okay.
that you specifically make like in November, December that's like a your thing just for during this time of the year? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you counting Christmas? Or are you just saying fall?
Well, I would say
Because
Just
Christmas
fall.
is its
I'm
whole
thinking
thing.
fall.
I would say, so mine is more of a Christmas thing because, like, so basically, so I love mince pies and they are seasonal.
Oh.
And I don't think you guys have mince pies.
I've never had one.
I have. Apparently,
Whatever,
they've made
Hannah.
it to Canada more than the U.S. No, my grandma made mince tarts.
And I had my first
Same,
mince
but
pie a week ago, I think, and it was delicious.
Ooh.
I didn't make it; it was a store-bought one. But anyway, so basically, they're pastry tarts with mincemeat in. And when I say mincemeat, it's not like ground beef; they're sweet. But it's basically a mix of like dried fruit and spices, and sometimes it has like a brandy or cognac or like some alcohol in. So if
There's no meat?
No. That's sweet. So do you have Christmas pudding? Like,
I have had Christmas pudding.
do you guys not have Christmas pudding in the States
my
either?
grandparents make all this stuff.
Not really.
Gosh, guys, you're missing out. Oh, so okay, fruit. Like you have fruit cake, right? Do you have fruit cake?
Yes, we have fruit
But, like,
cake.
yeah.
Nobody eats it.
really-
It's gross.
Oh no. Okay, so like
Christmas pudding is much better than fruitcake
Yeah.
because it's not super dense and
A
like
fruit cake over
doorstoppery.
here is like, ew, gross. They got a fruit cake. Like, it's not something. It's like, ooh.
yeah,
nobody
no,
wants a
okay.
fruit cake.
I understand that type of fruitcake, and it's nothing like that. But it's basically no. So the filling of mince pies is like it is basically a mix of kind of dried fruit, and it's sweet and like spicy and all those kind of mulled spices that you associate with like Christmas or maybe Thanksgiving and stuff. And yeah, and it's baked, and they're just like, oh, they're just really delicious.
It makes me think a little bit of an empanada. So an empanada is wrapped up, but inside it's meat, and it's
No, it's nothing like an empanada.
She's like, it has no meat.
I know.
meat in
Okay. No meat.
Like I remember having this whole like argument in my like Facebook readers group with someone from the States, and they were like, they just couldn't like comprehend that like mince pies didn't have
I'm gonna
meat
look
in
for
them.
some mince pies. I'm gonna look.
I'm gonna send you a recipe. I'm gonna
Okay.
post you a recipe. Although I guess the trouble is that like when you make them, you tend to buy the mincemeat. So you'll have to look. Do you have like a British aisle in your supermarket, like in your grocery store?
No.
Maybe
We do.
we have
not.
an international aisle.
Okay,
so
look
maybe.
in the international aisle. See if you can get like a jar of like British mincemeat, and then you just like get some pastry cases or something and pop them in and then stick
I
them
bet
in
you
the
could
oven.
find it on Amazon.
Okay, send me the
Yeah, I
recipe.
I was gonna say
I'm gonna
probably
do it.
online.
I'm going to do it.
You guys are gonna have to post this all on the Instagram's podcast Instagram. Ha, I got it out, so that people can see you actually trying these things instead of just promising.
Put it in our stories.
Okay,
Yeah.
challenge
Oh
accepted.
my gosh, that's fun. We make a lot of during the like this season. We make a lot of our salads, and like our salads are like my favorite salad is Olivier, and it's not even like Russian. But for some reason we just eat it, and people are like, "Oh, it's like a potato salad." I'm like, "No, it has potatoes in it. It is nothing like a potato salad."
Valia will fight you.
Because I will fight you.
It's got potatoes
because
in
every
it, but it's not a potato salad.
It's not a potato salad. No, because a potato salad in America like is gross to me. I just don't like it. It's like potatoes in like a weird egg mixture. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
potato
yeah.
salad. It's good at a
Okay,
barbecue.
So I've never Yeah, no. I've never had a good potato salad that I liked, okay? I just don't like the taste of it. But a Russian Olivier like salad that we usually make during Thanksgiving and then for Christmas again is like it has peas and meat and carrots and potatoes, and it has like a mayo sour cream mixture and cucumbers and pickles, and like it's like a whole thing, and it's a meal, and it's so freaking delicious. It's my favorite thing. And I always am like, Mom, we have to make it. So we make like a whole bucket of it. No, it's not a bucket, but it's like a whole thing that we can eat for like the whole week
Yum.
instead of just the one day. And then the other thing, this is a Christmas thing, but it's a herring in a coat. That's the name of it. And so herring, like the fish, and then you basically layer it like a cake. So you have like herring, and you have potatoes again, and you have carrots, and you have beets, and you have like egg, and you put like the the mixture of the mayo and sour cream in between. And so it literally looks like a layered cake. And then when you eat it, you cut it kind of like a cake and take out the whole thing so you can have all the layers.
Wow.
And we only make that during Christmas because it's like a lot of work. And also my dad doesn't like the smell of fish. But it's like, it's so good. My mom and I are obsessed with it because it's so good. And I always get really excited for Christmas and Thanksgiving because we're like, oh, we're going to make my salads and stuff. And so this year I'll probably be the one cooking because she has clinicals and stuff like that and work. And so I'm like, yep, it's happening. I don't even care. I'm making my fish salad. I'm making my potato salads. I'm really ready.
I love it.
I'm really hungry.
Valia has to go and have lunch.
I know. I really do. This conversation. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty good with the recipe. And this year I'm going to tackle for the first time ever pan de polvo. It is a traditional cookie. It's like a Christmas cookie. It's not a Christmas cookie. It's a cookie that's made a lot during the holidays. And it's like a sugar cookie with cinnamon. It is a huge deal. Pan de polvo is a huge deal. And usually my mom and all of her cousins and siblings will get together and make just dozens and dozens and dozens of pan de polvo. But, they're getting older, so they're not going to do it this year. So I'm going to do it.
I have faith in you.
You can do that.
You can do it.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to make
gonna be great.
the pan de polvo. It's delicious, and I don't even know if I can do it, but I'm going to try it.
You
can do it. You can do it. If it is necessary for the holidays,
It's
then
necessary.
You're gonna make it happen.
It's a
I believe
big
in you.
deal. So
The holiday magic will help you.
Yes.
yeah, so I'm going to do it, and I'm excited, and I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I'm going to try it. Pan de polvo. Yes.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice. I'm excited to hear how that goes.
Yes. Update on your next time you're on the podcast. You have to
I
tell us
will,
about it.
yeah.
And we know it will be good. It will be a happy story.
It will. Yes, it will. It will. It will.
Well.
All right, Hannah, you're going to wrap us up here
Okay.
with your food stories.
My food stories. Yeah, it's different in Canada because we have Thanksgiving in October. So it's none of this like the holidays thing where it all just kind of mushes together and you have all this food. We have like Thanksgiving food and then there's Christmas food. And I always make the pumpkin pie.
Ooh.
Because I have realized that I care more about the pumpkin pie than anyone else in my extended family. So it is my job. My mother, who is lovely, I love my mother. She doesn't listen to the podcast, I don't think. Makes it with tofu. And she's like, you can't even tell, but you can.
We talked about this.
Yes. And then like my other people in my family are like, well, we could just make a cheesecake. We could just make blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it is pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is necessary. I probably talked about this at Thanksgiving when it was our Thanksgiving. I made, like my grandma's pie dough recipe. And then you do it with maple syrup and buttermilk in my pumpkin pie.
Ooh.
It's so good.
That sounds
And I love
awesome.
it. Yes, it is awesome. I made like an extra one just for our little family to have the week after because I knew that I would be sad to not have leftovers. So I made like a whole nother pie. I don't know. I make a lot of Christmas cookies. I make a lot of shortbread. No surprise. I just love food. And then, for Christmas we do, my husband is of Norwegian descent. I always confuse people. He's born and raised in Chile. He's a Canadian American, but he's of Norwegian descent. His family makes lefse, speaking of potatoes. So it's like a mashed potato crepe kind of thing.
Oh.
You like,
Oh, yeah.
and then you
What is it
put
called?
butter, lefse.
Okay.
It's like Lefse.
Oh.
And then you, after you make them, you put like butter and brown sugar on them and cinnamon sometimes.
Yeah.
And this was like my thing that I was like, for my children, I am going to have this amazing like lefse experience, and I'm gonna do it because my in-laws lived in Chile and they couldn't make lefse.
For the children.
For the children, for the traditions, for my husband. And it took me like 3 years because my mother-in-law's recipe was one of those that's like assumes you know a lot of things you don't know. There's like a lot of steps missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like technically correct, but I needed more. So I had to go on the internet and find one of those like blog posts that's like 10 pages long of just like, and then you need this kind of potatoes and you have to do it like this way. You have to chill it for this long and you have to mix it like this. And now I can make lefse. And it makes me very happy.
Yay!
We eat it for our Christmas Eve celebration.
That sounds like the technical
nice.
challenge in the Great British Bake Off.
Yes, it
You
is
should
very
prompt
much.
it. Yeah,
and I
that would be a
have
good technical
failed
challenge.
that technical challenge. My goodness.
Awesome.
I do not swear, but I came very close multiple times for a few years there. Look, I'm doing it for you
And
guys.
on that note,
But now I can do it. And it's
Totally.
oh,
That's my
I love
story.
it. I love this whole conversation, and we didn't really talk about books that much because we just focused on the food part, but that's okay because it's that season, so I feel like our listeners would just
There
enjoy.
was books
Yeah.
in the conversation.
I
We're
guess
not totally
that's
off
true.
brand.
I don't know. I feel like food is kind of on brand for you anyway. So
Exactly.
it's fine.
It's true.
Yeah, but we will wrap it up here. And we kind of gave you guys a lot of challenges to post on Instagram already. So, like, maybe come up with a favorite Thanksgiving dish you cook if you are in the US, or share a favorite recipe, or something that you've tried from a book, or I'm going to stop there. But basically, you can comment on our Instagram post. Make sure to follow us at Reading Queens Pod. And yeah, I'll be back next week. Before you go, please give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform as well, and leave us a star rating or a review, and tell your friends and family, and listen to our podcast on Thanksgiving Day around the table.
It'll make you hungry for your food.
Yeah, bring it full circle. But yeah, that's it. We'll talk to you guys later.
We
Bye.
have to go get a snack
Yep.
now.
Bye. We're all
I know I'm
hungry now.
hungry. Bye.
A 5-course meal. Bye.